sides of the aisle to, on the surface parking lot that's catty corner to the Wallace School, to consider building another automated garage there, which will, one, increase our parking capacity long term, and two, give a place for those cars on Garden Street to go to when we have to refit the Garden Street garage. You start zeroing out the surplus in the parking utility, you make it extraordinarily difficult to do those things that will need to be done. You push those off until it becomes a very dire situation, and then potentially you're going to complain and say you don't want a bond to do those sorts of things, which would be forced to do because we don't have much of a surplus, or certainly not nearly as much as we would have if irresponsible decisions weren't made, like forcing the parking utility to pay down that debt. That debt, the IRS required us to refinance it. It was actually going to be refinanced where our debt service would be less burdensome. We would have saved our taxpayers money on the debt service of that debt. So it was a win-win. It was required, but we were forced to not do it because it wasn't supported. We were forced to pay off the mortgage, pay off the car loan when we as a household couldn't do it. It was absurd. But now, the other thing that's brought up, and it's been brought up on my TV set because Councilwoman Mason has the funding to buy very expensive commercials to try to make a point that I find to be totally inaccurate. And Mr. Acapini, I'm sure not having the money to run the commercials about it, tries to make the point here that the governor.
Speaking about my own personal finances at a council meeting.
Allow him to speak, and then you can
I'm going to say that I think it's kind of ridiculous propaganda to be put out over our airwaves as to what this city council's doing. And, you know, I think you should consider it a good thing that you wouldn't waste money on that sort of propaganda. Now, $5 million, the minority has the gall to say that they saved our taxpayers $5 million. Where was that ever brought up in the discussion? The evening before the governor came in, gave the opportunity to the governor to probably give a black eye in a highly Democrat county. I'm sure a Republican governor was very pleased to do that, and he also wanted to save the jobs of 1,300 employees. There was not one time when this council minority said we shouldn't bond for this $5.5 million because the governor will come in and pay the bill. That was never brought up. So because the governor happened to have done that the next day with a press release where he said it is completely unacceptable that the city council, and that was the minority, placed local politics ahead.
Hold on, Councilman
1,300 employees.
Let him speak. Sorry,
placed local politics ahead of all the 1,300 employees at the Hoboken University Medical Center and the people in the community who rely on the critical services provided by this hospital. This administration, that would be the state administration, is not going to allow political bickering to put this hospital in jeopardy and potentially have a negative and irresponsible impact on the city's finances. Now, I could see the minority making an argument that they saved us this $5 million when the governor
Sure did.
It did that save for us if they had brought it up during those discussions, but they didn't. They didn't say, oh, the governor will come in and pay the bill. The state taxpayers as a whole will pay the bill, because let's be mindful. It's still we taxpayers paying it. It's just spread out across the state.
Thank God for that. Thank God for that.
And nobody made the argument that our state as a whole should be paying that bill, and that they were confident the governor would come in and pay it in lieu of us paying it. Nobody made that argument. So don't, after you had the luck of that happening,
Buyer should pay for it.
the luck of that happening, try to take credit for that luck that you had nothing to do.
Hold on.